unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, misfits for life of the Kickass Nation? Hi, it is I, Christopher Rausch, your No Excuses coach, back here again for Tuesday night at 7 o'clock for the Raw and Unscripted show with yours truly, me, Mr. Christopher Rausch, the place where I help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Woohoo! Can't get a hell yeah for that. Nobody's here yet. What the hell? Come on, guys. It's not even 7. It's 7:01. Where the hell are my people? Where are my people? Where are you people? So anyways, yes, we are here again for another Tuesday edition of the Raw and Unscripted show. And I'm proud to be here tonight in front of you live and in person, bringing you the education, the motivation, the inspiration, everything that you possibly might need to walk away with a different perspective about your future and a different thought pattern about your past and your current situation right now. That's what we do here. We reshape your perspectives to make it work for you, not against you. That's what I'm all about. I'm not about the stuff that's going to wind up taking you 7 years to figure out and then kind of go out of it like some kind of therapy or psychology going on. But so anyways, appreciate you guys being here live or on the replay. Of course, I know you guys catch a lot of this on the replay, so thank you so much for doing that. And as always, even if you're watching this on the replay via YouTube or through Facebook, as always, please engage with your comments, even if we're not live, because me and myself and my guests will go back there and engage in any questions that you might have had that we didn't get a chance to answer while we were live. So that's what this is. This is a community where we have you guys interact with us. This is a conversation, me and my guest at a bar or a coffee shop, having some drinks, talking about what is going on in life and how we as individuals are making a difference in the world around us. So that's what this conversation is about. That's what this show is about. And we've got Robert Brooker in the house. What's up, Robert? Good evening. Tuesday. What's happening? Kickass Larry's in the house. What's up? Rockstar Live. Holy smokes, Ray's in the house. Misfits. Yes, Misfits for life. What's up, Ray? Dude, I'm so proud of you, dude. I can see what you're doing. I can see what you're doing. I can see what you're doing. And I love it. I love it. You're rocking, dude. Thank you for being here. It's been a minute. So yeah, anyway, so I've had the pleasure, and I'm going to talk about this for just a second. You guys have heard me, spill my guts about this, the Clubhouse app. Wow. You guys know over the course of the last year, the 12 months that we've been going through COVID, going through, the George Floyd killings, going through everything that we've had to go through, the political shit that's been happening, all the divisiveness in America. You know that every day I'm always bringing you guys the confidence building stuff that will get you out of the current situation and into the new situation. And through Clubhouse, my faith in humanity has been restored because, it has been a time unlike any other in my life, especially here with social media, to be able to connect immediately with people you would never connect with before across the globe. I was doing it before on the WhatsApp group. That was all texting and stuff like that. But this is actually people to people conversation over it's voice. It's just our voice. We're not seeing each other. But the connections that I made in the last 3.5 weeks, month has been absolutely just mind blowing. I know I've told you guys about this. We just had Forbes Riley on my show, my Unfiltered show on Friday with Scott. We had that. We've just so amazed. We had Jimmy Dennis a couple of weeks ago who had spent 3 years or 25 plus years on death row. We've been blessed to have him. So I have met so many different people through this app. And tonight I get to introduce you guys to somebody that I've recently become in contact with. And here's the beautiful thing about Clubhouse, the beautiful thing about life, really, because this is a microcosm of life. And we're going to probably talk about this, is the fact you find your tribe. I'm different. You guys love me because I'm different, because I speak differently. I shoot stuff straight from the hip. I'm stupid. Sometimes I go off in tangents, whatever it might be. You guys are my tribe. You guys are my misfits for life. And that's what we call ourselves. But when you get in there, I'm finding so many people are just like me. They swear, they're passionate. They're not driven by money and ego and all this other stuff. And how much sales did I get today? They're in these rooms pouring into people, using their brilliance, using their intelligence, using their stories to help other people who are just crying right now for any positivity, any source of opportunity to build themselves up. And I'm pleased to have with me tonight the CEO and the publisher of the Los Angeles Tribune, now a good friend of mine. We've had an opportunity to share Clubhouse rooms together. I was on a show last night. Please welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show, Mr. Moe Rocks. Mr. Moe, what's going on, brother? How are you doing?
How's it going, Christopher? Good to see you. Thank you for having me on your show. And you're absolutely right. I really think that, this this new app that you talked about is definitely something that's been life-changing. And you know, I think right now, part of the reason why it's so effective, Christopher, is that because the world is really yearning for leadership. And especially with everything that we have collectively gone through as a global community the last year, we need a new kind of leadership. And I think that Clubhouse is one tool that a lot of people have been using to spread that message around. I know it's been very effective for you to spread that message, for me to spread my message. And I'm really excited that you and I get to share some time together with our faces actually showing this time instead of just little icons. So it's really a thrill for me to be on your platform, and thank you for the vote of confidence.
No problem, dude. No problem. I've looked forward to this conversation as well as our other conversations big time, because I love how you stand out in your presence, in your business life, in your social media. You're not afraid of people to say, who are you and why are you doing that? You're your own person. And that's what I was alluding to in the beginning intro, is the fact that when we just gravitate towards one another, nobody's asked me, who did you vote for? Nobody's asked me, what's my stance on abortion? You know, everybody's just been like, hey, you're cool. I connect with you. Okay. Hey, how can we help this person? Can we do, you know, a collaboration on something? It's just been super beautiful. So thank you for being here. And I just want to acknowledge, we've got Robert says, I have never heard of Mr. Moe Rock. Why don't you just give people a little taste of who Moe Rock is, brother, and then we'll get underway.
Well, I think he says, I have heard of Moe Rock, but nonetheless, if you haven't heard, of course, Christopher mentioned that I am the publisher of the LA Tribune, and I'm the author of the book Lead by Example, which really, Christopher, my work that I'm really passionate about is introducing a holistic approach to leadership. That's really what my purpose is here. Is to spread that message that to lead in life and to lead in business, it doesn't always have to just be about the P&L sheet. It doesn't always have to just be about the next marketing funnel. It doesn't always have to be about the next tactic. And those things are good, and there's a time and place for all those things. But my message really is to have a holistic approach. And my job here is to introduce a new way that we define wealth, right? Because if you actually look at the origin of the word wealth, it doesn't mean having, you know, 55 million bucks in your checking account. It actually means well-being. And so that's really what I'm here to do primarily, Christopher, whether it's in business, in life, or with my books and the different projects that I have going on as far as creativity goes. That's really my message, is to have a holistic approach to life, a leadership approach that focuses on gratitude, that focuses on giving, that focuses on creating win-win scenarios, as opposed to just, you know, 100% market centric. And so that's really what I'm passionate about discussing and talking and encouraging others to share that perspective with.
Awesome. We're definitely going to dive into that. My coach is passionate, super passionate about servant leadership and basically inverting the triangle, you know, to make sure that the employees are on top and it's not the CEO that's on top. So we're definitely going to dive into that. But one thing we were talking about before we went on camera and somewhat that I alluded to into the intro is the fact that, you know, COVID-19, something that has been on our minds and on our plates since March of last year. And I don't know about you. I know that a lot of us thought that it was going to be, it's going to be over in a couple of weeks. It's going to be over in a couple of months. It's going to be over by the summertime. It's going to be over by fall. It's going to be over by Christmas. Now it's going to be over by this. I've had the opportunity to talk to so many people during this time, both on my show and in my coaching. What are some of your perspectives that you've seen during this time? Obviously, you've got a lot of different connections in the world. What have you seen overall in the way humanity is changing and transforming in both a personal side and a business side?
Well, I never said that it would go away in a few short months, even in the very beginning. In fact, I was talking about my friends and people that I work with know that I was talking about this in February, before it really even hit this particular part of the world, the way that it ended up doing in March and April. And I would say that, look, if you look back at our history, 9/11 happened in one day. It was finished in the following day. September 12th, 2001, the tragedy was over. But that still changed the trajectory of our country. It still changed the trajectory of the world. And so the same is going to be true for COVID-19. I don't see this as something that is going to cease to exist when the virus ceases to be, you know, a number one threat to our species. Even if and when, not if, but when there's herd immunity internationally, the changes and the impact is, of course, something that will stay, right? I think that what happened in the last year was we as a collective species experienced about 10 to 15 years of advancement as far as adapting our lifestyle to technology, and it was squeezed in 1 year out of necessity. And so I think that a lot of the things that we see today, hybrid events, people working from home, people relying more on apps for their food, for their delivery in a way that we've never seen. This was actually inevitable. We were going to go to this space anyways, but the speed in which we've had to adapt to it is sort of, it's been like a quantum leap. And so I think that, this past year has shown us as a species, as a community internationally, that we really need a new kind of leadership as well. Because on one hand, yes, we advanced in many ways, but on one hand, we realized just how far apart we are. Because I don't know, it's funny. It seems just like yesterday, Christopher, that people were stomping on each other's neck for some toilet paper. instead of making sure that everyone in their community was safe and sound, instead of making sure that people are fostering that sense of community. I mean, it really was an unfortunate thing to witness, that a percentage of our population just went into full fight or flight mode, as opposed to staying cool, calm, level-headed, and figure out what are the steps that we can do as a community to get through this together. And so I think that right now is a good time for real, authentic leaders to step up, stand up, use platforms like this to put that message out there. I mean, on one hand, though, I will say that the past year has done a good job of bringing to light things that we need to focus on, financially, mentally, relationally, spiritually, physically. And consequently, Christopher, I'm just excited to talk to you about ways that we can inspire others to not only redefine wealth, but also redefine leadership.
Bam, bam, bam. That's what I love. That's what I love. So let's dig into that for a minute. So you brought up wealth before. What is one of the biggest perceptions that people have had to change during COVID? Has it been about wealth? Has it been about identity? Has it been about fear? Has it been about uncertainty? What do you think because I'm always big into perspectives and perceptions. What do you think are some of the biggest shifts that people are experiencing?
Well, here's what my hope is. My hope is that people realize after this year that we need to not count on others to live our lives. We need to not count on the government. We need to not count on our employers. If you're working for somebody, we need to not count on something external that's going to take care of us. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote my favorite essay of all time called Self-Reliance. And so I think that this year, for a lot of people, was a rude awakening. Like, wow, I really can't rely on others to take care of me. And I think that in some respects for people, that's been painful because they've been living in this illusion their whole life. And in many ways, kind of the matrix has been broken this past year. And so from that perspective, it's good in the sense that people are awakening. But I encourage people to really focus on self-reliance and being a cause of their life, and not just hoping that the next stimulus check is going to come, or just hoping that, there's a new bill passed that, that's going to be passed that's going to take care of them, but actually being at the cause of their lives, going out there. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I encourage people to at least think like an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is not for everybody, and that's okay. But even if you're not an entrepreneur, you can think like one. You can think with that self-reliance. You can think with that grit. You can think with that resiliency. And even if you're working for someone else, having that mindset is going to substantially change your life mentally, physically, relationally, spiritually, and financially. Because at the end of the day, you're counting on you, and you're counting on your own ability to mold, craft, shift, and shape your own life and your own destiny. And I think that this past year has proven many things, one of which is we need to focus on being self-reliant.
No, I love that. I love that answer. And it brings to me the fact that my is unstoppableness. It's like, just Chris, people say, Chris, how do you stay unstoppable? Well, like, you just never stop. You keep going, you keep figuring it out. You keep getting resourceful. Marie Forleo has a great book called Everything is Figure Outable. The audio is great because she swears and she talks and she's just normal, but she just talks about every situation in her life that could have been negative or perceived as, something that, well, that's a showstopper. She's like, I learned how to pivot. I learned how to figure it out. I learned how to get resourceful. Moe, when I think about, the people that have been through this, the last 12, 18 months that of just in general of life, I see three different categories, but the two I'm going to talk about the most are the victims and the victors. And I have seen people that went into this who were victims and realized they had to get the hustle on and have become victorious through this, becoming resourceful and finding their true grit, finding their best. And I've seen people who were really good now become victims. What do you say to the people who are struggling in that mindset, who just, because I talked to somebody today, I was like, you are more capable, you have more opportunity, you have more stamina, more power, more everything than you even think about to try to get through to them. But how do you get through to people who are in that victim mindset, who just don't want to take that responsibility to be self-reliant?
Well, that's a challenge, but it's a challenge that leaders must overcome. And as a leader, it's part of our job to help guide. We can't change the way that people look at life, but we can lead by example, and we can encourage them, and we can be there for people to try to enhance their consciousness, enhance their awareness. And at the end of the day, Christopher, if somebody feels like a victim because of COVID-19, my suspicion is that even without COVID-19, there would have been something else that they would have felt like a victim about. Perhaps not to the extent, because this is a very easy situation to take advantage of if you're somebody that's always in a victim mindset. But if you look at and by the way, not everybody, because and I'm not minimizing the things that people have gone through, but what I am saying is that the mindset doesn't lie, right? When COVID-19 happened, I know a lot of people that immediately got into their creativity, got into their adapting mindset, and embraced the challenge in many respects. I know people, Christopher, that have 3x'd, 4x'd their business this past year. Mm-hmm. And so I look at them, and the only real difference between them and people that have just not been able to adapt, people that have been breaking down, people that have been just in pain, is the mindset. It's not about intelligence. It's not about opportunity. It's not about, one person has a 200 IQ, one person has 100 IQ. No, it's the mindset. And it's about assuming formlessness. You see, Christopher, a lot of people, sadly, they get used to being a one-trick pony. Maybe you made a couple dollars as a business owner and you just want to rinse and repeat what worked for you. And then when something happens and that goes away, now you don't know what the hell to do. But at the end of the day, Christopher, you can't be a one-trick pony. The market is going to destroy you, with or without COVID-19, because we're now in a place where we are effectively in globalism. Whether you deny it or whether you accept it or deny it, the market doesn't lie. Just go on Amazon.com. Most of the stuff is shipping from all around the world. Go to your local Walmart. And now with people having this new hybrid system at play, there's a whole host and a whole myriad of countries where people are now virtual assistants. So I know friends that are business owners that are no longer looking to hire somebody here for 70, 80K a year. Instead, they'll pay $1,000 a month and get someone from the Philippines to do the exact same job. Mm-hmm. And so this is not going to stop because we don't like it, right? This is the inevitable direction that we're going as a world. And so with this hyper competitive situation, we need to really understand that the only way to survive and thrive, whether you're a business owner, whether you're working for anyone, that does not matter, is to assume formlessness. You've got to focus on being fluid, on adapting, on being able to change how you go about things at any given moment. Don't be a one-trick pony, because if you are a one-trick pony, and I see them all the time, you guys are basically going to choose to be like dinosaurs, where you're going to go extinct, and it's going to be very painful. Because you're going to think back at the good times 5, 10, 15 years ago when you were making a good salary, when you were making good money doing this, and that position is no longer here, and you did not grow, you did not assume formlessness, you did not get used to adapting, and now you're getting lost in the sauce. And the people that have traditionally assumed formlessness are the ones that are going to take over this new world, this new market, this new world order of business that we see around the globe. And so assuming formlessness, adapting, and consistently educating yourself and learning on the new methods, the new technologies, the new trends of the world are really the answer and solution to surviving and to thriving.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that you talk about how the world is changing in terms of technology and the fact that we can either get on the train or be left behind. And I think that's what some people are really realizing. And actually, I've had a couple of my mentors over the last week talk to me about, because they know sometimes I pontificate and think about the future, like what if, and that used to be one of my former identities that I would do that. Like I got to figure out what plan A, B, and C is. But now that I'm in that fluidity, now that I'm in that free fall of a jump in just enjoying what I do and my coaching and my shows and everything else that I've got going on. There's that freedom where I don't necessarily have to worry about what it is, because I know whatever it is, I'm going to be on the forefront to adapt to that. And I owe that to the fact of my experience and my upbringing, that nothing was ever stable. I was always constantly having to pivot and grow and learn and tweak. Okay, what do I need to learn next to get this? So I have that adaptability to be able to do that. I see people that are struggling with that right now. Just a couple of things they can get started with, Mo. Then I have another interesting question for you, but just a couple of things they can get started in their mindset to develop that entrepreneur mindset, like you were saying, or just something just to be able to, a daily ritual, something to get them out of the rut that they've been in.
Well, a lot of times when people get to that point, we talked about this last night, Christopher, the first thing is fear.
Yep.
Right. And so a lot of times what we see when we really uncover the layers is that there's a self-esteem element to this, where if somebody, especially somebody, Christopher, that might be in their 40s or 50s or even 60s, it's tough to reinvent yourself if you're 30, let alone if you're 50 or 60. And so my heart goes out to those people, because I know that they're in a position where maybe they've done the same thing for 15, 20 years. Maybe they're in corporate America, and suddenly their position is eliminated and terminated. And so they just are in a place where they have a real shell shock approach to life, where they really feel like they've been just completely shell shocked. And sadly, there's a lot of people, millions of people in this country that have gone through that shell shock this past year. And I hate to be the burden of bad news, but I'm not going to water down the truth. It's only going to get worse before it gets better, with or without COVID-19, because the marketplace is changing at a Mach 10 speed. Yep. And so at the end of the day, Christopher, the first place that I see as a roadblock for people is the fear, especially if you've been in the workplace for a few decades. Is, the mentality I hear a lot is, well, how the heck can I learn the new, the market is a young man's game, or, this world is a young man's game, or young woman's game. A lot of people have this self-esteem problem, where they just don't feel confident enough to learn, confident enough to go into the workforce, confident enough to build a new business, confident enough to actually go out there and make an impact in today's market. Maybe they were fantastic 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Maybe, they ran Yellow Page ads in the late 90s and made a killing as a plumber, whatever the case may be. And now they're like, well, my plumbing business is not doing so good, but, no one is reading Yellow Pages anymore. Just using that as a metaphor. Well, you've got to find a way to go online. You've got to find a way to go and get in front of where the eyeballs are. Maybe you start a podcast about plumbing. And you specifically target your local area, whatever the case may be, just using these as small, tiny examples to make a point, Christopher, that people need to adapt, need to have the self-esteem and the confidence to do it, and need to make sure that fear, you can feel the fear and you can do it anyway. That's a fantastic book. I highly recommend people read it. And you feel the fear and you do it anyway. So if you're in a position where you're hesitant, if you're in a position where you're hesitating to start your business, hesitating to learn a new skill, hesitating to really go back into the workforce, back into the market and make an impact, you got to feel the fear and you got to do it anyway.
Susan Jeffers. I have the book sitting right up there. I have given that book to so many different people. Yeah, that's an amazing one. So shifting gears a little bit, I want to get your take on, because we've talked about leadership here, and thank you for that answer. I love that. I know some people that in their 60s right now, former corporate guys, and now they're doing lives and they're doing all sorts of things. Like, man, this is kind of weird, but some of them said, I see you doing it, Chris. And I'm like, yeah, you just get out there, and just like anything else, like riding a bike. I'm teaching my son how to ride a bike. You get all over this place, you kind of get squirrely, you get back on, you figure it out, you get wobbly, and then all of a sudden you're doing wheelies, So with the talk of leadership during the last 12 months, who have been some really great examples of leadership in maybe the business sector, publicly, what have they done? And perhaps maybe some of the good leaders that have made bad decisions during this time, just to kind of get a reflection of who's risen to the floor of who you think is a good leader, and who was in that standing before, but now has taken a step back based on how they've reacted or responded during this time.
Well, I'll say this, because you and I both operate in the personal development arena with a lot of the work that we do. There's a lot of people that love talking about giving back, that, that loved talking about helping others, that loved talking about, humanity, and they just completely disappeared off the face of the earth. March, April, May, June. Like, where were you guys? Right? And so I think that a lot of people were kind of exposed this past year, and these are not even household names, but just people in that space where I'm not, I don't have short-term memory, right? I pay close attention, so I'm going to remember who disappeared off the face of the planet and who stepped up and stood up. I think a great example of somebody, and I know that a lot of people love his work, and I've never attended any of his seminars, but I've read some of his work, and just seeing what Tony Robbins did this past year. I mean, if you were not into Tony Robbins after this year, you probably should be. Seeing the way that he adapted and seeing the way that he stood for his truth and sharing the opinions that he shared, regardless of whether if they were popular or politically correct or not, but just being who he is. If you agree or disagree with some of the stuff that he says, you can't not deny that he embraces his own authenticity. And so I think that he's a great example of somebody that stepped up, adapted, pivoted, and said, I don't care what's happening in the world, I'm still going to make my impact. And from my understanding, he's done several big events digitally that have affected millions of people. And so he's someone that really stepped up. He didn't just stay in his mansion and eat ice cream, right? Yeah. Which a lot of big public figures, whether personal development or celebrities, did for the last 6-7 months. Like, where have you guys been? You guys were never hesitant to step up in front of a camera and do a press conference and talk about giving back to humanity. But when it got serious and there was an actual opportunity for you to do something, where were you? Right? And so again, I encourage people not to have short-term memory. Who are the people that checked up on you? Who are the people that disappeared off the face of the planet? I know I'm not going to forget Christopher, and I hope other people don't either.
Yeah, no, that's true. And so who were when I think about Tony Robbins, I love the fact that he gave away basically 2 different training packages. Like, he did one last year. It was a live 3-day event, I think it was, a challenge. Then he just did another 5-day challenge, and I watched part of it. Damn, things were like 2-3 hours long. But just watching Tony and seeing how much he was giving back and pouring back into other people and making the goal this year. He's already fed millions of people through his charitable contributions through feedinghungry.org. I think that's the one. I hope I get it right. But he was talking about feeding over 1 billion people this year. And it all started with one dinner during Thanksgiving that, that was brought to his family's house. And he's like, I'm going to do that. And he started just paying it back. Yeah. People like that standing up and saying, hey, what can I do? The thing that's been disturbing for me, Mo, is the people that, with all these millions and billions of dollars, and are they taking care of their company, their employees? What are they doing for them during these times? And instead of, taking a little bit of a hit on their bottom line for a little bit of time, they immediately, once the government subsidy ran out on payroll, you're gone. Right.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that that's nothing new. I think that it's just under more of a microscope now, which is a good thing. But that mentality is nothing new, Christopher. I mean, as far as the bottom line being the bottom line, that's something that we see quite a bit in corporate America and have for many, many decades. You can go to the 80s. That was happening every other weekend for a company somewhere. But at the end of the day, that's why I encourage people to, going back to the beginning of this conversation, to focus on what Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote about in his essay called Self-Reliance, right? Because when you have self-reliance in your life, you're taking power. You're taking power of your life and putting it in your own hands. You're not counting on a chain of individuals on providing you your livelihood every 2 weeks. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I know most of the people listening are still in that place in their life, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I would, again, encourage you to at least start thinking like an entrepreneur and plant those seeds, right? You may not quit your job tomorrow and start a business, but what you can do is start building that mindset. And what you can do is you can start planting those seeds, and you can begin the gestation process. So eventually, at some point, you do take full responsibility of your life, financially, mentally, relationally, spiritually, and physically. And then once you do that, Christopher, you are living a life that's truly wealthy. Going back to what we discussed earlier, where you're embracing well-being.
Right.
And you're living a life that's fulfilled and fulfillment, not necessarily happiness, because there's a distinction between the two. You could be happy for 10 minutes and then sad, get a phone call and you're angry, right?
Right.
Sometimes I'm so happy, and then someone calls me with some nonsense, and I'm not so happy, right? But I embrace all of it because I live a life focused on fulfillment.
Bam.
Go ahead. Which is priceless.
Priceless, yes. Yes, no, definitely. Fulfillment, gratitude are massively important in making sure that we have our focus in the right spot, right? That's what I think about. So I'm just going to take a little station identification here. What's up? Robert is writing his book as usual. Robert's got all sorts of comments coming up here. Let me see if you have any questions. By the way, guys, if you're just joining us, please engage with us. If you have any questions for Mo or myself, put them here in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. I'm going to scroll through here for a second, Mo. Looking back on your life, let me ask you this question while I'm doing that. Looking back on your life, what was maybe one situation where you had a leader that taught you a major lesson in something that they did for you or to you, in your perspective? Like it was either a negative situation or a positive situation. What was a leader as you were coming up through the ranks that really highlighted what you wanted to be in a leader or what maybe you didn't want to be?
So my first job out of high school, Christopher, was actually working for a gentleman that ran for Congress. And at the time, I had, begun developing my skills of marketing and social media marketing. At the time, social media was very, very, very new. And so I was hired to essentially run the social media arm of that campaign, fresh right out of high school. And I got a chance to spend time around somebody that was running for Congress, U.S. Congress. And so being part of that campaign showed me up close and personal what it means to have audacity. Because I got to learn the lesson of audacity at a very young age, right out of high school. Those, between when college started, it took a few months, and there's a whole story about how I landed that job. And no, it was not an internship. It was actually a paid position as a full-time staffer on a political campaign. And he didn't know that I was literally fresh out of high school. But that's another story for a whole nother day. But the point is, Christopher, when you think about what it takes for somebody to run for public office, you're putting yourself in a position saying, I am declaring that I have all the answers to the problems of society. Now, whether or not they do or don't, the point is that takes a certain level of audacity. It takes a tremendous amount of audacity, which I was able to witness up close and personal. When you're standing in a room of 300 people, they're all looking to you to solve their problems in life. And I watched this and I'm like, wow. So that experience, Christopher, I think back, he was one of my first mentors in business. And just having the audacity to say, you know what, I'm going to go out and make a difference. I'm going to go out and make it happen. I'm going to go out and step into the trenches and not worry about the scrutiny, not worry about the negativity, but just focus on what my purpose is. And so later on, many years later, after that experience, I realized what that was when I was reading The Hierarchy of Needs, and I was reading about a lot of that work. And of course, we've all seen the pyramid. But what's interesting is Maslow, he actually discussed that it's not the true self-actualized person, Christopher, according to Maslow, is not the person that's detached from the negative opinion of others. That's easy, right? Yeah. We hear it all the time. Well, I don't listen to what the haters say, right? But what's interesting about the work of Maslow is that he said that the true self-actualized person is the individual that's detached from the positive opinion of others. And so I want to ask the question to the people watching. I know you probably ignore the haters, so to say, but are you attached when someone gives you a compliment? Are you attached when someone embraces your work? Because if so, you're still not self-actualized. So to truly be self-actualized and to truly embrace your authenticity and what you're here to do and your purpose, you got to be detached from both of them. You see, Christopher, as much as I love and I appreciate all the nice words that people might say to me, I don't get attached. And, at the end of the day, because if you're detached from compliments as much as you're detached from insults, you're truly living your life. And that is freedom. That is not being attached to socialized mind. That is expressing who you authentically are. And what greater way to live life could there possibly be than to just embrace and express who you authentically are?
I love that. I love that. Obviously, embrace who you authentically are. Yeah, that's been a journey for me big time. But you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right, Mo. It's the fact that when you can stand in your own space and you can feel confident and comfortable whether you're standing in front of a couple of thousand people on stage and you don't really have anything planned on what you're going to say. And you can stand there and look around and go, "What's up, everybody? Let's talk about our attitudes today," and be able to just roll with that and roll with how it is that you present yourself and feel about yourself, and enter into a situation, not having to worry about, okay, am I going to be right for this person? Am I going to be right for these people? Am I going to make these people happy? Am I going to make the people at home happy? Am I going to make the people and just walking out and just being in the moment and enjoying it for me, honestly, Mo, the biggest thing that has helped me is the sense of gratitude in the fact that I was always searching and looking for other things external to me to give me validation. Oh, did I get another speaking gig? Did I get another like on my Instagram? Whatever it was, I was always seeking that external situation. Can I buy this thing? Am I going to get this award? Whatever it might be. And it wasn't until I really started paying attention to some people that my mentors were turning me on to, that before I didn't quite care for. And then I was like, I remember somebody saying something that they said, you know what, if you can't be happy now in the situation that you're in, what makes you think that any more possessions are going to fill whatever that void is? That void most likely is going to be some sort of psychological void that we've been carrying around for quite some time. Have you had any experience with that, with helping people with those psychological voids where they constantly look to the short-term gratifications to fill those?
Well, the evidence is rampant. I mean, look, we all know people that have different voids in their life, and they live their entire life unconsciously trying to fill these voids, not even realizing that that's what they're doing. And I think that's why it's really important for people to take time to begin at the beginning, and to really go to their childhood and do that inner work. Between 0 and 7, much of who we are for the rest of our lives is kind of programmed. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of neuroplasticity to change the way that our brain operates. And so it requires a lot of inner work and honest inner work. But there's absolutely so many people that just are living a life filled with a void, and that's a bottomless pit. And it's a very sad place to be. I mean, whether it's for attention from other people. I know, working in the industries that I've worked in, I've met a lot of celebrities, Christopher, and I'm friends with a lot of them. And many of them are very talented people that really want their art to be appreciated. And many of them are filling a void. And many of them are stuck in a bottomless pit. And they'll never get that fixed. They'll never get that high taken care of, because they're filling a void. They need attention from others, or whether it's money, whatever the case may be. We can sit here and just list off things one after the other for the next hour, but make sure that whatever you're doing in life is not to fill a bottomless void. And also remember, there's no value in lying to yourself. This takes courage, right? It takes courage to really, I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell and and mythology, and a lot of the work of ancient Greece, and a lot of the stories that Joseph Campbell introduced to the West. And we all have heard the stories of the dragons being slayed. Well, I look at this like a metaphor, right? We all have our inner dragons, and it takes courage to be that prince, to slay those dragons. And I look at much of Joseph Campbell and much of mythology as inner metaphors. And so are you slaying the dragons? Because in order to slay the dragons, you need to be that prince. You need to be that knight. You need to be that warrior. You need to go in there and do the necessary work. And once you slay the dragons, hey, you're free, that's the path to fulfillment. That's the path to your purpose. And so with that being said, Christopher, we could talk so much about this for the next 9 hours, but going back to gratitude, there's a reason the first chapter of my book, Lead by Example, I start the book off with gratitude. That's the first chapter of my book. And a lot of times, I would speak at different conferences that were very business oriented, and people would be sitting in the front row with their pen and their pad, and they want, they're expecting something about their P&L sheet. And I start talking about gratitude. Right. And there's inevitably one guy that I would always see in the audience look at me like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I'm here to make more money. Why is this guy? How did this guy get on stage? And why is he talking about gratitude at a business conference? And, internally, I would laugh a little bit, because I'm like, you just don't understand this. Because when you apply gratitude as a business owner, there is a tangible benefit that cannot be denied. Because suddenly, every single thing, every decision that you make throughout the day is made from a position of gratitude, from a position of appreciation. This resonates with your employees. This resonates with your clients. This resonates with your team. This resonates with yourself. And ultimately, there's a compound effect. When you make choices with gratitude, there's a compound effect. And that compound effect is a positive outcome, right? And so operate with gratitude. It's not a pie in the sky when you die. It's something sound on the ground while we're around. In other words, it's very practical. It's very tangible. And you are going to see a 5x, a 10x, a 15x in the outcome of your life and business when you operate with gratitude.
Boom, boom. Moe Rock in the house. Moe Rock in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, that inspires me to share a story that taught me a very, very, very important lesson on many aspects. And I'll share it with you briefly. When my mom was going through some rehabilitation for her hand, she had to go see a physical therapist. And so sometimes I would have to drive her to the physical therapist. And for the most part, I would stay inside. I would stay in my car and do stuff. And she would go in there and do her thing. And a couple of times I needed to go help her with the wheelchair or whatever. And when I went in there, I was surprised when the guy that was doing her physical therapy was also in a wheelchair as well. And he was a younger guy. And I watched him a couple of times that I took her there, saw him spinning around, younger dude. And I could tell because I have a friend of mine who's in a wheelchair. We used to do the crazy board jumps and all that other stuff. Like, I'm like, dude, you can't even use your legs and you're fucking braver than I am. You know, it was all this crazy stuff. But me being a seeker of wisdom and truth from people, the actual sources, I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? My mom was off going to the bathroom or something like that. And he goes, yeah, no problem. And I said, you know, what happened? And I just blurted out. I'm like, what happened? And he's like, oh man, it was a surfing accident. And I said, oh, he goes, I said, really? I said, funny. I said, not funny, but I know somebody else who had a surfing accident. He goes, yeah. He goes, basically, the surfboard got away from him and came back and nailed him in the back of the neck. And basically when he washed up ashore, he couldn't feel his legs anymore. And I said, wow. I said, you know, I'm sorry to hear that. And I said, what was your biggest learning lesson out of that? And he said, you know, he goes, honestly, he goes, my biggest learning lesson is I used to complain about so much stuff that I would give anything to be able to do now. And he brought up one that was so important to me, Mo. He said, he goes, Chris, he said, I used to sit in traffic all the time. And he goes, and I would sit there and bitch, piss and moan about the traffic and everything else. He goes, you know what? I would give everything I own. He goes, I have a normal life. I play tennis. I have a van. I still go to the beach. I still live my life. He goes, but I would give everything I have right now to be able to feel my foot on a brake pedal sitting in traffic. And that most stuck with me. I just sat there and I remember just looking at him going, and normally I'm not a loss for words whatsoever. And I just looked at him like, I just said, thank you so much for sharing that story with me. I said, that is going to impact my life and so many other lives. And anytime I've been on stage or anytime somebody has said, you know, what's gratitude? I'm like, let me just talk to you about that. And I have so many other stories to tell about that, about shifting the perspective and putting ourselves in a spot that normally we wouldn't think about in order to have that sense of like, wow, I have electricity. I have running water. I tell people all the time, I said, you go into a room in your house and turn a silver faucet and fucking hot water comes out of the wall. Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? So yeah, that's just my 2 bits about gratitude. But in kind of thinking about COVID and leadership, and so many people are working remotely right now. Where do you see that? Do you see that trend continuing, or do you see people returning back to the workspace? And in that, what type of leadership is going to have to pivot in welcoming those people back? You know, you're going to have some of the people that are like, hey, I didn't think it existed. I'm ready to go back. It's no big deal. You know, you and your mask, whatever. And you're going to have the people that have been inside literally for the last 6 months because they've been paralyzed of COVID. How do you think leadership's going to have to adapt to that?
Well, to answer your question, I don't think it's going to fully go back to the way that it was. Yeah. I think that many companies are going to adapt a hybrid situation, and many companies are going to start hiring people internationally, because what this has shown, particularly for positions that are not necessarily needed to be hands-on, is you can replace a lot of people that are hired in the U.S. under U.S. labor laws with international people that can do the same exact job. And so, a lot of corporations in the United States, historically, the last 20, 30, 40 years have been bringing people in via visas from countries like India to fill their workforce. Well, that actually is going to no longer be necessary, because you can simply hire the guy in India, as an example. And so consequently, I think that there's going to be a substantial number of companies in the United States that will simply hire overseas. And because now it's become proven. Now in the last year, there's a lot of testing. There's a lot of probing. There's a lot of data. There are a lot of data points about, working from home. And so sadly, like I said, it's not going to be a situation where it's going to get any easier for people, but you need to step up. Don't wish for things to be easier. Work on getting stronger. A lot of times people talk to me, oh, I wish this didn't happen. I wish that. I'm like, dude, don't talk to me about things being easier. You want to have a conversation with me? I would love to have one with you. But let's talk about what we need to do for you to get stronger. Because if you want to talk about wishing things to be easier, there's another human being on this planet that'll spend time to talk to you. I'm not interested. But if you want to have a conversation with somebody about steps necessary to get tougher, to get stronger, to deal with the reality, I'll spend as much time necessary that I can spend to help you get there, because that's what the world needs. The world needs more resiliency, more strength, more adaptability. The world doesn't need any more complainers. I'm tired of people complaining, Christopher. I want people to go out there and make a difference.
Bam. Mic drop. Remember? Mic drop. My little microphone.
There you
go. Yeah. Robert says, but nothing amazing never came easy. Yes, absolutely. I was thinking when we were talking, Mo, I was thinking about the great Les Brown. And he says, doing life what's hard and your life will be easy. You're doing life what's easy and life will be hard. Mr. Les Brown, baby. Yes. Darlene, our awesome Darlene says, you guys are awesome tonight. Thank you for your time, Mo and Chris. Thank you, Darlene, for always being here. You are brilliant. Robert, you guys are all super, super brilliant. We love you guys. I saw something about Joe Ingram in here. You know Joe Ingram, right?
Of course. The
Joe Ingram. Yes, thank you, Darlene. We appreciate it. Let us know if you have any questions. I know that sometimes we have a bunch of questions and gotcha. Cool. So final thoughts. So you have a microphone to the world right now, Mo. What do you say to the future leaders of America, the youth of America who might be watching this down the road a little bit? What message do you have for them to bring the world into where we need to be as far as humanity?
How much time do I have, Christopher? A message to humanity. 30 seconds, 30 minutes. But I'm
gonna see how long you could talk while you squirm.
Well, got it. That's a good one. Inside joke there. But no, the thing is, Christopher, at the end of the day, being focused on a holistic approach to leadership, which means specifically having gratitude as the foundational component of how you lead your life and how you lead your business. Everything else will change in your life. Every single element of your life, financially, mentally, physically, relationally, and spiritually, when you become gratitude centric. Because how could you possibly be a victim if you're operating with gratitude? How can you possibly blame other people for the results of your own damn life if you're operating from gratitude? How can you be up at night with thoughts about how the world is out to get you when you have gratitude? How can you be mad at an employee or mad at an employer when you have gratitude? It's an impossibility, right? There's going to be cognitive dissonance if you even try. So be gratitude centric. Make gratitude the foundation of your thought processes, and everything else, like they say in Reaganomics, there'll be a trickle down effect throughout to all other elements of your life once you have that as the foundation. So that's my message.
Bam. Thank you, Mo. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can they get your book? Where can they get more of Mo?
Well, the audiobook will be available on Audible next month, so people can check it out then. As of now, Christopher, you can find me on social media, on Instagram at Moe Rock Loves You.
Moe Rock loves you, ladies and gentlemen. Mo, we have been going for 48 minutes, brother. Thank you so much for being here on the Raw&Unscripted show and just being who you are. I truly am just having a great time just getting to know you and supporting you and diving into conversations. We could totally go in so many different ways. I love where your perspectives are at, where your heart is at, where your mission is at in the fact of making the world a better place, making it a more cohesive place, making people more resilient. Thank you, brother, for that. I'm going to stick you backstage for a second. I'm going to say something to close out the show, and then we'll wrap up back there, and I will be right there. So thank you, guys. Make sure you connect with Mr. Mo. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Raw and Unscripted show with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, and our special guest tonight, Mr. Moe Rock. We delved into different aspects of the communication as far as it goes into leadership, being resilient, right? You guys hear me talk all the time about victim versus victor. And I love how Mo brought up the topic of resiliency. That's something an aspect we haven't talked about, but it's the same aspect of being unstoppable. It's like you guys have more within you than you absolutely could ever even imagine. Again, I've told you guys, go watch David Goggins for a couple of hours. Just watch different YouTube videos and watch what's in his mindset. Watch how he pushes himself. Go look at James the Iron Man Cowboy. Go look at Jesse Itzler. Go look at these people who have put themselves in phenomenal situations to figure out what their best is, right? So the question I have for you guys out there, speaking of resiliency, speaking of pivoting, speaking about everything that Mo shared with us tonight about how the normal is going to be constantly changing and how we are going at 10x speed as far as technology evolving and everything that's going to be happening. What is it that you're going to do to bring out your best, right? When you think about your best, what is your best? When you get to the end of the day, do you go, oh, I did the best I could? If you did the best you could, then how do you quantify that? And how do you quantify what better is? I think of it in terms like this. If somebody said, Chris, I need you to raise $10,000 by the end of this week, or I'm going to kill your son. That's leverage. That's enough of my why. I'm going to figure out the how. I'm going to do it. That's going to be my best, right? Because if somebody sat there and said, go raise it, and didn't have any leverage on it, but then once they put the leverage in there, then I realized what my best is. Then all of a sudden the limitations and the barriers and the things, the preconceived notions and the self-limiting beliefs that we put in our brain immediately evacuate our brain, because now we have to become 1,000% resourceful. And that's when we find our best. And I'm not telling you to have these sick, morbid thoughts, but for me, it helps me figuring out what my best is, both mentally, physically, and spiritually, and being alive every single day, as Mo had so eloquently said, and you guys have heard me talk about 1,000 times, gratitude, right? Here's a simple 3-part exercise that you guys can do every single day. It takes less than a minute. Before you wake up, you have to wake up. Before your eyes open, stay with me. Before your eyes open, gratitude. I'm grateful for the sheets. I'm grateful I have a heater. I'm grateful for the alarm clock. I'm grateful I get to go up and have a job. I'm grateful I have a business to go to. I'm grateful that my son's in the room sleeping. What is it that you're grateful for? So oftentimes we get up and what do? We pick this fucking thing up and we go, oh, what's going on? And then we just like go into go mode. Right? So number one, wake up. What are you grateful for? Number two, what are your intentions for the day? What is your intention for the day? If your intention for the day is to be a bitchy prick, go back to sleep and figure it out again. So set your intentions. Have 5 to 7 intentions. My intention every single day is to be present and playful with my son. Every single day, my intention today is to be present and playful with my son. My intention today is to serve humanity and be an excellent source of motivation, inspiration, and whatever else I can spew out of my mouth to keep people positive. What is my intention today? My intention is to attract people in my life that are going to help me elevate to the position I can do so I can help more people. What are your intentions? All within a minute. And then get up and go pursue those intentions with massive energy, massive passion, have accountability partners, get people in your lane, and become resilient, guys, because otherwise you're going to find yourself in 3, 5, 10 years with a thing you've seen me post most about, which is regrets. And I don't want any of you guys to have regrets. This is a pivotal time in our life. You guys have heard me talk about Clubhouse. You guys have heard me talk about pivoting and getting in there and making relationships and networking. This is the time for you guys to do it. It's not supposed to be about anything else that you otherwise think is going to return back to normal. Sorry, guys. I just saw that my buddy Scott says bitchy prick. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this show's about. Don't be a bitchy prick. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you for being here. What's up, buddy? Yes. Hey, so ladies and gentlemen, that's our show tonight. This is the Raw and Unscripted show. We had Moe Rock on here. Please go connect with them and connect with us again Friday night on the Unfiltered show. The Unfiltered Experience, we're going to have a couple of people on. We're talking about the compassion games. Think about that, the compassion games. Let's talk about that. So you know where to find me Friday night, the Unfiltered Experience with my buddy Scott. And we got Lynn Serrano in here. I'm going to be on Lynn's show tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So tune into that too. What's up, Lynn? Great to see you. All right, we're going to tune out now. You guys stay classy. You guys stay kick-ass. And most of all, stay unstoppable and don't be a bitchy prick.